cool. In media res, which I teach my students often. So pretty much all of your stories have to do with your background?
Yes, they're my stories. I really care about ownership of stories, as I'm Welsh, and not because I'm Welsh, it's nothing to do with bloodline. It's just the fact that a lot of times people tell other people's stories, and whilst people can be really good storytellers, I feel like you tend to believe people more and be more engaged with the storyteller if you believe that it's their story. So I don't tell anybody else's stories, I just tell my own. That means I don't need a script.
Does that also mean that occasionally you're short for material because?
No.
No. So what would be your grounds for saying like that happened to me? That would make an awesome story.
No, I never think of it like that. I don't think of myself as a storyteller. You know, I just talk. People enjoy it sometimes. It's like one time they billed me as a stand-up comedian. It's like the kiss of death, and they go on and make me laugh. But the way I see it is, I stand up, and sometimes people laugh. So in that respect, I'm a stand-up comedian. But no, I just talk. I just talk. So I don't think, right, I'll use this. This is material. I mean, the slot I do in there, I just talk about being a kid, and people like it because it's my stories, but they're universal. You know, we were all kids. So I think it's just that. And actually, people like to be scared as well.
Yes, they do.
Well, there's a lot of people there.
And do you have any advice for kids, young adults, full grown adults, who would want to be a storyteller or want to be better at storytelling?
Yes, don't learn anything. Don't learn anything because you'll become an artificial person. Just be yourself and tell your own stories. Everybody's got their own stories. Everybody has their own culture. So don't steal somebody else's. It's like I'm a painter, an artist painter, and I paint my stories. But I wouldn't paint tigers because I don't know any. I've never seen one. Well, I seen one in a zoo once, miserable, and painted. You know, just paint what you know, write what you know, sing what you know, just do what you know because then it comes from inside and it's real. So don't learn anything. Don't learn about how to deliver, how to do this. Just be your bloody self. And you'll either be good at it or you're not. And if you're not good at it, do something else.
Okay. So you never had a moment of like, oh, I need to work on my pacing and my volume and my intonation?
No, other people do.
Yeah.
People often tell me things like that, and I take it on board. Like last night, when it said I was too quiet. So okay, next time be a little bit louder. But no, I never do work on any of it. I just talk. And as I get older, it seems to be that it works better. That's it, really. And it seems like the advice is no advice. But it's not actually. It was just be yourself.
And you seem to incorporate a lot of atmosphere, and there was quite a bit of mood set up based on what you did with your story. Do you recommend that, or is that specific to the story?
I feel it worked. I feel that really worked. Yeah. Mainly it's because I've become a storyteller, as in somebody pays me to be a storyteller by accident. I just talk, and people enjoy it. And once or twice, people say, "Will you do that again, or will you come to this?" And I'll do it again. And I did it for years without anyone ever paying me. And I grew up with a lot of people in my family who told stories brilliantly around the fire or in a bar, and nobody ever paid them either. If my father knew I was getting paid for this, he's dead now. If he knew I was getting paid, he'd be laughing like a drain. You're getting paid to talk. You've never stopped talking, and now people are paying you. That's absurd. So the only atmosphere I try to create, if I can, is the atmosphere of what I grew up with, which was sitting around the fire telling stories, or in a bar. So the two things I do is the bar, and when I'm in there, that's not going to be a good thing.
That's it. And still, girl.
What we did there was we tried to create the atmosphere of a living room. Really. Thank you. Tried to create the atmosphere. It seemed to work quite simply, just 2 candles. So that's it. And also I think to make it more intimate, because especially in a storytelling festival, you can get storied out, and it can't be, oh, you got another hour of this, I can't leave because it looks really rude. So yeah, just try to make it feel a bit different. And
then do you think that music plays a large part, because you do have a harpist?
That was a completely new introduction. I've been doing this for years and years and years. I've never had any music. I met Stacey in the bar 2 years ago, and she really enjoyed what I was doing and said, "I'd like to work with you." And I said, "How?" I'll just busk along with you. I said, well, it's not a performance, I'm just telling a story. No, come on. So she kept on about it. And so then she convinced me it was a good idea. No, she didn't. I didn't believe it was a good idea. So. But she was just so, you know, she's enthusiastic. She was just so keen. So she came, and we did it, and yeah, it works, doesn't it? I think it creates a fuller sound than just a bald voice. And also what she plays, all of the pieces she played were traditional Welsh pieces, and the words were either words of my grandmother's or words from traditional pieces or words that I found in that house. So they are all intrinsic to the story, they're not just tag-ons. So the same thing again, it's like do the true thing.
When you got to insert some language, it felt organic, like it didn't feel... You know, sometimes when people start inserting their native language or a language they'd like to show, and it feels a bit like suddenly you're in history class or language class. And
well, I'm thrilled that you think that. Yeah, I do love the idea of doing that. Not to make it feel like now we're going to talk in our traditional native tongue. How tedious is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just put it in, and then sometimes I translated it, and sometimes I didn't, and sometimes she translated it, and sometimes she didn't. But it doesn't matter because the language is a beautiful sound anyway, and because you feel like there's maybe something to do with the story, you just kind of watch it. And also it goes with the heart, let's face it.
And do you have a favorite story ever, whether it's fiction, film, I mean, anything?
Somebody else's, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I love the old stories that I grew up with, which are all of them mad little stories about the hidden people, as my grandmother called them. All the little malevolent elves that kicked about in Wales when I was a kid. And there are, some of them are written, generally they are cold and a little dead when they're written, because they're written by collectors, not by storytellers. But they work better coming from a mouth than a book. But some of them are lovely. I read the Mabinogi, as does everybody in this festival anyway, not anywhere else. But if you can, wade your way through the old language, it is still a great story. Sex and drugs and rock and roll. It's been turned into a kid's story. I don't know why, but it's got punch.
And were those used ever as a way to curb your behavior as a child?
Stories?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. My grandmother's put the fear of God into me. Absolutely put the fear of God into me. Yeah. You go out there now, you're going to be for it, because you know what the night is tonight? It's the night of the moon.
So it seems to have some sort of connection with the story that we saw last night, in the sense where it's just atmospheric. Something's coming to get you. You know it's there.
It's funny, isn't it? But we've kind of moved away from that you shouldn't scare kids to death. But I loved being scared when I was a kid. I loved it, and I spend a lot of time scaring kids now. Because kids love it.
Yeah.
They do love it. I had some sleepless nights over there when I was a kid. But if it was an adult. But it's part of what we are. We get something. The adrenaline rush of being frightened is as good as any. So I think we need it. It's part of what we need. I don't know why, but I think we do.
Yeah, I got a bit last night, so just enough not to keep me from sleeping, but enough to
Did you get enough to feel a bit?
Yeah, it was a bit odd because there were some couples who were cozying up by the candlelight, and it was just sort of like, this is creepy. Why are you half spooning in your chairs?
I didn't catch any of that. I mean, the neat trick of the candle as well is because the candle's right in my face, I can't see anyone. I couldn't see any of you at all, so I was just in my living room telling Stacey the story.
It's like a Victorian spotlight.
Yeah, it works like a dream.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Oh, that was painless.